Well, hello and welcome to yet another episode of Gateway here with your host, Blake Dahlier. Now, here on Gateway, we always talk about how each high school athlete has a story. They are in high school sports, they learn lessons for life through high school sports, and sometimes they can even take that into college. But this is a special edition where we're going to take a look into Dylan Gehring's skiing career in Minnesota at what high school did you go to, Dylan?
I attended Northfield High School.
Northfield High School. So Dylan from Northfield High School was a skier, which is a bit of a niche sport, if you would say that. And so we're going to take a look at what he did instead of through the lens of as a high schooler looking forward, now as a college student, and how that helped prepare him for his future career in urban planning. So Dylan, tell me a little bit about your high school ski experience to kind of get things off, refresh our audience.
Yeah, I'll start you off here, just kind of give you a little brief introduction of what it is exactly I did. There's two types of skiing, alpine and Nordic. Nordic is cross-country and alpine is downhill, and I found myself in the alpine department. I'd always been big into downhill skiing, kind of just a recreational thing I did. But in my junior and senior years of high school, I found myself on the alpine team. So that's kind of like where you see on the Olympics, the red and blue poles. They're called gates, and you ski slalom in between them. And there's different kind of setups they have there, so you have to obey those patterns and try to do that in as little time as possible. So, yeah, just really good team atmosphere we had, and it was actually a co-ed team, which was pretty interesting, although boys and girls did compete in separate leagues.
Now, is this something you got high school varsity letters for as well when you participated?
Yeah, I actually did gain those, so that was very nice.
Now, so you talk about skiing, and it was a co-ed team, probably brought a unique atmosphere in that respect. How did that help teach you some lessons maybe that you would apply going forward?
Do you mean the co-ed aspect or just the team itself?
Yeah, how did that co-ed unique aspect of that help prepare you for maybe working with people in a different atmosphere going forward?
Well, I think I would just see it as just kind of communal friendship. There's little differences between us, but we all formed a really solid team, and we were really excited to just be together. And even though we weren't always the fastest team or whatever, we always won for school spirit because we could scream the loudest and we were the most excited about our team. And I really see that as a comparison to my studio environment for my urban planning major right now, as we are a small, very close-knit group, and it really just makes the work we do more fun and easier to accomplish.
So tell me a little bit about your studio experience. What exactly are some of the things that go into that? And what all do you try to produce on a daily basis?
So for urban planning, I'm in second year studio. There are 9 other students there. And what we do is it's a collaborative work environment. We kind of bounce ideas off each other. We're all sitting at desks in the same room trying to work on things for a period of 4 hours on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And our teacher's there for consultation. She can help show us how to do different things that we can't ask the students about. And yeah, we just kind of try to follow a schedule and produce whatever that schedule demands, whether it's a map or a drawing or something like that.
Now, kind of relating back to high school athletics, and in your case, skiing, you had to follow a pretty strict schedule for that, I'm sure, as well, with practices. Can you kind of draw a comparison between the two?
I mean, I think it's really just anything has scheduling to it. Skiing, of course, there's practices on certain days, and we had to be off the hill by a certain time so we could all get undressed. And, there's a lot of gear that goes into skiing. So unpacking that, getting on the bus at regular times. There's actually a joke about my friend Luke. And one time he ran upstairs to order a grilled cheese, which took about 10 minutes for him to get that. So it kind of became a joke of don't order a grilled cheese. Got to stick to the schedule. So I guess just for planning, we're just trying to stick to that same schedule and trying to avoid pulling an all-nighter before a deadline or a pinup of something we've produced. So, yeah.
So that works out kind of funny. You have that unique co-ed atmosphere. It teaches you to work with different people that maybe do things a little bit differently. Mm-hmm. Then you have to follow that time schedule, which all relates into the planning part of your major.
Yeah, I guess so.
And so tell me, I guess, a little bit now about like you do your mapping, you do stuff like that. Now, what are some of the bigger plans, I guess, that have come out of your urban planning projects and things like that? I know you talked a little bit before about the city of Muncie and stuff like that they're trying to bring into the equation and help the city out. What's going on there?
Yeah, so obviously, in light of recent events, things may be changing, but our current studio project was developing community indicators set up for the city of Muncie, which kind of measures all different aspects of life in the town and tries to direct town leaders to kind of where does the city need help. So we can measure things like where are sidewalks, where are food deserts, where are good places to put bus stops, and just things like that we can measure and map and then show them in a kind of holistic summary to try to direct future action in the city. So that's kind of the project we're currently working on. Other things we've done have just been site design and just designing kind of other little unique places that could be implemented in the future, whether that's into Muncie or Anderson or some hypothetical thing.
So overall, you guys are a smaller department, but it sounds like you guys are working on some pretty large-scale developments.
Yeah, it's a small department, but we do pride ourselves on the fact that the work we actually do does it's meaningful to Muncie. We really try to connect our studios to real life. So it's exciting in that regard. And I don't want to discredit the other CAP disciplines because sometimes they also have programs that integrate into Muncie, whether they're doing landscape design or help being influential on building something like a river pavilion. But planning especially, I would say, is very targeted towards real issues and less hypothetical situations.
So what are some of those real issues you talk about?
Well, we talk about, effectiveness of transit and kind of is there accessible food for people in the community? What's kind of the demographic breakdown? Is a certain part of town low income? Does that need to be addressed? Is there appropriate social services for people? So we just kind of look at that, and I guess that's what our current project is for Muncie especially. Our project last year, we focused on a part along the White River in Anderson and trying to develop a park for that and just kind of figuring out how a space could be better used and help create a more vibrant atmosphere.
So you talk about that atmosphere too and like maybe helping along the White River. It sounds like a lot of this is environmentally driven, environmentally friendly. And I know like with the ski slopes and everything, in cases in the Olympics, they've had to bring in snow if the temperatures got too warm, stuff like that. So it sounds like a lot of this too, you could maybe even relate to an environmental aspect, taking care of the slopes to transitioning now to taking care of the community, taking care of the White River in this case.
Yeah, I guess you could make a sustainability kind of connection there. In planning, I'd just like to say we also talk about economic stability and social stability on top of environmental sustainability, which is what people normally think about. But yeah, it's kind of interesting to draw those comparisons because skiing, especially downhill, is very much about like, yeah, how do we kind of cut runs into this? How do people use the nature? It's kind of an example of ecotourism, I guess. But yeah, just not trying to damage the natural environment and yeah, also making snow and kind of reallocating water resources to do that sort of thing. So that is an interesting point that you bring up.
Yeah, and so when you talk about all of this as a whole, there's a lot of connections. And I guess, would you argue that that just goes to show that maybe you've learned a lot from skiing that could transition into life? Because I know a lot of times high school athletes have told me that without the high school sports, they might not have had the same experience or looked at things a certain way they did later down the road.
I would say especially with team building and just kind of a group effort environment, building close personal relationships in something you guys are working on together. I think that's really my biggest takeaway from it. And I just really love to be, everybody loves to be in a group like that where people actually have a lot of fun together and care about each other. It just makes work or what you're trying to accomplish better. And I think personally, I really like to be a leader, and in skiing, I was underneath captains and co-captains. So being able to be a follower and be good at that and not trying to kind of overstep my bounds was also something I learned, which was really valuable, actually.
So you'd say overall, the leadership and then the team building aspect might have been the most important takeaway?
Yeah, I would say that.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Dylan Gehring here from the Northview High School ski team, now a Ball State student, a sophomore here in the urban planning program. Dylan, thank you for joining us today.
Thank
it was
you,
good
Blake.
speaking with you.
Yeah, excellent.
All right. So be sure to tune into our next episode that we'll release next Monday here on Gateway. Thank you for listening. For Blake Dahlier, have a good evening.